In this world, there's one man who refuses to follow the script.
We have rules here, you know that. And if you don't follow the rules, then what are we?
One man stands tall in the face of adversity.
But it ain't about how hard you hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward.
A man who rises above the ashes of hot takes.
What do you care what they say?
Easy for you to say they all love you.
It's just noise, man. You're really good at it. You might be great.
That man is Nick Kostos, and this is You Better You Bet.
If loving sports is wrong, I don't want to be right.
Where narratives are challenged and the truth is spoken.
I told you what was going to happen last week. If you didn't listen, that's on you.
This isn't talk, it's perspective.
It's not what you look at that matters. It's what you see.
This is You Better You Bet, presented by BetMGM on Westwood One Sports.
What's up, everybody? Happy and merry, magnificent Sports Monday to you and yours. This is You Better You Bet with Nick Kostos on Westwood One Sports, as we bring you the fastest show in all of sports. The show presented today and always by BetMGM. Make it legendary by downloading the BetMGM app and visiting BetMGM.com. And on this Monday morning, the world of sports is buzzing. And we're going to get to all the big stories, including, has this been, through 3 games, the best Stanley Cup Finals ever? Again, through 3 games. But has it been the best Stanley Cup Final ever thus far? I've got a statistic that says the answer to that question is yes. So it's not just the eye test which says yes. Numbers prove it as well. We will get to that coming up in a little bit. Also, and look, you can extend this to life, to everything. Politics, entertainment, your personal life. There are insane stories everywhere in life and in sports. But there is one right now in the National Football League that absolutely takes the cake. And I'm guessing some of you are expecting it to be one thing, and it's not going to be that thing. We'll get to that thing also. That thing is Brandon Ayuk. It's not that thing. It's another thing. And we'll get to all of it a little later in the program. And it is officially World Cup week. Happy World Cup week to all who celebrate, and that should be 100% of people. First game in the World Cup this Thursday, and the United States plays on Friday against Paraguay. And today on the show, we're going to give you wall-to-wall World Cup coverage throughout the tournament. Absolutely can't wait for it. Today on the show, I will tell everybody the 5 teams, the 5 countries that can win the World Cup. There are others that could be in contention, but from my vantage point where I'm sitting, 5 countries and 5 countries only can actually win the World Cup. And I'll tell you who they are and why later in the program. Our bets for tonight will close the show. Knicks money line, anyone? Minus 135 of 113 straight games. Anyone interested? 310-840-4910, youtube.com/@thekostos. Just one note here, programming note. This opening segment will be a little different than usual because calling in about 5 minutes from now, a head coach of the Washington Commanders, Dan Quinn. So another head coach here on the show. How about this show? Kellen Moore last week, Dan Morgan a couple weeks ago, Dan Quinn today. We'll have way more NFL guests over the course of the summer, training camp into preseason, obviously in the regular season. This show is absolutely rolling, and great to have you on board the train. So a little bit of a wonky first segment in terms of I'm going to talk for a few minutes now about the NBA, and then Dan Quinn for the NFL fans is coming up 5 minutes from now, and then after that interview, we will get back to the NBA Finals. And that's where we'll start. The Magnificent Sports Monday edition of You Better You Bet with a garden party. 2 wins away. Happy birthday to me. My 43rd birthday. And am I saying this? So right now, you in your head, or perhaps going on social media, will wish me a happy birthday. Am I saying it for that reason? Yes. Because I am very needy and insecure. And I would like all of your affirmations and happy birthday wishes. How about it? I told you on Thursday that on Friday night, my birthday was Saturday, going into Manhattan, going to a sports bar to watch Game 2 of the NBA Finals with a bunch of my college friends. What an experience it was to feel the energy of New York City, to watch the game end the way that it did with Wemby missing at the buzzer. And just as a Knicks fan my whole life, the Knicks lose games like this. Wemby makes that shot. Sam Merrill makes the shot in Game 1 of the Eastern Conference Final to sink the Knicks. Wemby makes the shot in Game 2 to sink the Knicks and sink our hearts, send our hearts into our stomachs, give us sleepless nights, make us angry, make us sad, every emotion under the sun. But no, not this year. At least not yet. Because another heart-stopping dramatic win for the New York Knicks it feels like it was a long-ass time ago. Can't believe we didn't have an NBA Finals game on a Sunday, but that's okay. Game 3 coming up tonight at Madison Square Garden. What a game this was. What a series it has been. And what a run for the New York Knicks. And I'm going to cover it in full. We'll get to the Spurs part of it. We will praise individually the Knicks players as part of this. But just now, until Coach Quinn calls in, what I think we really need to touch on is the all-time nature of what we're watching. I first used the term all-time team assigned to this Knicks team after they won Game 2 of the Eastern Conference Final against Cleveland. When I'm watching the game, and they're beating the you-know-what out of the Cavs to go up 2-0, and I've never seen anything like this with my favorite team. Now, I've seen great runs in sports, obviously. There've been a bunch of them in the NBA and other sports as well, but not from this New York Knicks team. And I got a lot of pushback from people on that. How can you say that? Who have they? They haven't beaten anybody. They played the Sixers and the Hawks, and now James Harden. You can't say it. I can't? Really? What's happened thus far? 2-0 against the Spurs. People still want to bitch, moan, whine, and complain? People still complaining about this? 13 straight postseason wins. Second team in the history of the NBA playoffs to win 13 straight playoff games. The only other one, the legendary 2017 Kevin Durant Warriors. That's the only one? You still want to complain? 8 straight postseason road wins. People still want to complain. It's unbelievable. At some point, you need to face facts and understand what you're watching and stop letting your bias crawl into it. This New York Knicks team got to finish the job. 2 wins away. We've never seen a team win 2 road games to start an NBA Finals and lose the finals. This New York Knicks team, 2 wins away from a championship and wearing the mantle of all-time team. We'll get back to the NBA Finals coming up in a little bit, but this is an unbelievable treat because joining us right now on the phone is the head coach of the Washington Commanders, the great Dan Quinn. And Coach, I had a great conversation with my executive producer, Bill Zimmerman, to end last week where he calls me and goes, we have a really good problem. Coach Dan Quinn and the Commanders want to call in at the start of the show when we're going to be talking about a problem. It's the greatest thing of all time. I can't wait to talk to Coach Quinn. Thanks for joining us on the show. How's it going on this Monday morning?
Nick, you're awesome, man. I appreciate that. It's going good here. We've had a blast this offseason. It's been a really significant one for us with new systems and adding new players. So each of the weeks have been, just kind of how we're building things together. So, yeah, it's a good time here in D.C., man.
I love that. And thank you for the compliment. And let me return it to you. You're awesome. With the optimism and the energy that it's infectious, and I think everyone can feel that and everybody can respect that. So we can dispense with the pleasantries here, and let's talk some ball because I'm really excited about your football team heading into the season. Now, I'd like to get micro as the interview goes on and maybe talk about some of the additions on the defensive side of the ball that have me and others really excited about the defense this year. But I'd love for you to just first speak about your new defensive coordinator, Durante Jones, coming over from Brian Flores and that system in Minnesota. I thought it was such an intriguing hire when you made it. I can't wait to watch the defense this year. What about Coach Jones first before we get into the players?
Yeah, he's off to a hell of a start, Nick. He's really detailed, has good vision for it, has always been a part of some defenses that had significant, takeaway production. And we like to be on the edge and be aggressive. And certainly that, with Durante and the system, that he's been a part of for the last 3 years of disguising and blitzing and when to be off and, how to different ways to go affect the QB. And then a number of guys that we've added to the program. He's off to a really good start, man. I've been very impressed just by the sequencing, the teaching, and putting in a whole system isn't easy, over a certain amount of weeks. And you, as a coach, sometimes can try to go too quickly. He just really nailed the tempo of making sure we all get it down.
Coach, this can be as much or as little of an answer as you want to provide here. When I get the chance to speak to someone like you and what you've accomplished, I like to try and get inside your head as much as I can, right? Because there were some people that said, that's kind of a questionable, not that he can't be a good coach, but are the systems going to mesh together? How's this going to go? I think it's fascinating. Candidly, I think it's going to work and be a huge success for you guys defensively. Would you mind taking us inside again, as much or as little as you'd want to provide, your thought process behind the hiring of this specific coach with this specific system for this specific group of players entering this season?
Yeah, and I get it. The unknown can be tricky sometimes, especially when you're not on the inside to go. So we were really thorough in terms of a search of people that we would dig into of what a system would look like and how we'd build it. And you want to make sure there's some principles that are non-negotiable about attacking the ball. And if you want to play good defense today, you better be a good tackling team. And so that's where you start to find certain things. Hey, this is, at the top of the pile. And I think when you're putting new people together, you want to have a system that's relatable, that you can teach it quickly. So it's not going to take, in a year or two, he'll get it. You want to be able to have that space quickly. And so those are just a few of the things, Nick, that you want to get to say a mindset to be aggressive, a good tackling team, and then a system that can be, teachable and relatable. So like during these off-season program, we can teach. So when you get to training camp, man, you can absolutely let it rip and throw a great camp. So it's an important part of that, because if it's too complex, it doesn't mean it's wrong at all. But when you're adding new pieces that all are on the same page together, it does have to be relatable and teachable, and you got to be able to do that quickly. And I think that's how our NFL is today, where we're adding new people each year to the programs that you can teach it and get, results quickly.
Coach, the first time you said in that answer, a good tackling team, I'm imagining Sonny Styles just streaking towards the ball carrier on the other team, and just how pumped I am to watch him in this defense for you guys. What about Sonny specifically here and what he's going to bring to your defense? Obviously, your first-round pick, linebacker from Ohio State.
Yeah, Nick, and I'd say being around him, the thing that jumps out is just how much this guy loves football. You can feel it from him wanting to be part of things early, staying to learn it, to be able to go express that out onto the field. And this time of year, you're learning calls and communication and finding to do that. But you're also trying to play. It's not a physical time of year, but it is the speed that you're looking for and the angles and the communication. And so that's what we see, Sonny and all of his teammates working now. But you feel his speed and his length on a consistent basis. And I love the work that he's putting in, calling defenses, being right in the middle of it all. And he's got some excellent teammates here to learn with and grow with. That linebacker alone with a guy like Frankie Luvo and Leo Chenal that have played, been in big moments. And so, those are important guys for him too.
I am sure your answer is going to be either that you don't care or that it fuels you a little bit, right? And fuels the defense maybe. But it feels to me, and you mentioned Leo Chenal, right? And along with Sonny, a couple of the offseason additions on your defense. It's not just them. Odafe Owe comes over, right? Caleb on Chason. Nick Frost, I feel like, is one of the great underrated defensive players in the in the league that'll be playing safety for you guys this year. Do you feel like this has been a little underreported almost, or a little disrespect that you guys feel, thinking about how much Like, the talent that you guys have imported to this defense is unbelievable, and it feels to me like this should be a way bigger topic of conversation, Coach, than it is with all the talent you guys have now.
Yeah, we're okay with being under it. We do recognize we've added a lot of guys, to this group, and you spoke of Chason and Odafe and defensive end Charles Amenahu and defensive tackle Tim Settle, just in the front alone, and then you add guys like Cross and Amik in the back end, that corner. And we were looking for great competitors, man. That's usually, Nick, where it starts. Guys who just are relentless, will not back off, are down for every challenge that comes. And the guys that I mentioned, they fit that. And so to see them all kind of here and meshing together as a part of that, excuse me, as a coach, that's all I could ask for, the learning, the techniques, and then the better time they get together, then they grow it. And that's an important process, Nick, that you have to go through. The players have to come together and make it their own, and that's what we're seeing right now.
As a defensive coach, right, with a defensive philosophy and a defensive mindset, and that's your background, when you either look at a depth chart and see those names or look at the field and see these players, what is the excitement level that you feel as to what this unit could be this coming season?
I'm excited. The best defenses that I've been a part of had big crews. It wasn't just, 11 or 12 guys. It's 17, 18 players, that make up the core of a defense, and the speed, the physicality, like the violence that they're going to play with. Those are the things, Nick, that light me up. And so can we coach them in the spring to get their bodies into those positions to be able to make the plays? And then at training camp, then we get to ramp it up again. And then obviously as you're getting ready for the season. But it's a really important step for us of learning the system so the guys can play fast. You've heard that term before. And okay, well, what does that mean? It's knowing exactly what to do without any hesitation. And that's the job as coaches, to not make it so complex that they don't have the ability to absolutely let their instincts and their play style really jump out. And so you have to know it in order to play that style.
Where is Jaden Daniels at entering year 3 of his NFL career, Coach?
Yeah, he's doing great. He's throwing a great offseason, new system on the offensive side as well. And so as we're going through these 2 new systems offensively and defensively, we did that just a few years ago when we started here, and Jaden is at the very front of that process, and he's at the very front of this process as well. There'll be certain concepts and schemes that we've carried over from the last 2 years, and there's also ones with David Blau that are new, but Jay's right in the middle of all of it, and his competitive nature out on the field is really his superpower. And so that's the preparation to go absolutely, go let it rip at practice, and that's what I see him doing over the last few weeks.
The head coach of the Washington Commanders, Dan Quinn, here with us on a Monday morning. You bet Westwood One Sports with Nick Kostos. Now, Coach, I am an NFL super fan in addition to this being my job. I read a lot. I listen a lot. I watch a lot. Now, I'm going to reference one name. We had ESPN Sal Palantonio on the show last week, and I asked him about David Blau. And he said to me that people in the league have said to him that David Blau has future head coach written all over him. And from what I read and from what I listen to, it feels like that's a pretty consensus opinion. There's a lot of optimism around him now. I'm sure you'd like to keep him with you as long as you can, right? So I don't know if you'll love me saying that. But I think that there's a lot of excitement around the league for what this offense can look like this year, specifically with Coach Blau, who I think fans know who he is because he recently played, obviously, started a Thanksgiving game for the Lions. But as far as being a coach, right, what a fast track to this job, offensive coordinator of the Washington Commanders. What about Coach Blau and what's impressed you about him thus far this offseason?
Yeah, he's another one. Like when we were talking about Jaden as the competitor, that's also Blau. And when you're a quarterback in the NFL, you may not have coaching years, but you kind of are just by the knowledge of what you're seeing, the expertise that you have to go to. I like that David's been in a few different systems as a quarterback and from different clubs. It gives you different perspective of what it would look like, when you are calling plays and how do you feature players together. So he's got a good staff with him here, guys like Anthony Lynn and Bobby Ingram, just to name just 2 of them right off the bat that have, experience. There's many that have seen it from the lens of the helmet on our staff, both offensively and defensively, and a lot of experienced guys. So he's exceptional. And Sal was right on track. He's excellent. And I'm just the opposite. I couldn't be more pumped when guys get opportunities that are big and deserving for them. So through the years, that's been one of the things I've been super pumped for when guys get their chance for advancement. But in the meantime, it's time for him to kick ass and get this entire group playing like in a play style that we're all really pumped about.
Let's talk about that entire group for a moment, right? And I'll preface this by saying we see the unexpected, coach, happen in the NFL every year. Like, no one thought you guys a couple years ago were going to go to the NFC Championship game, and there you were, right, playing the Philadelphia Eagles. So I could very easily, I'm wrong all the time, as listeners and viewers of the show will know, I could easily be incorrect in this assessment. But right now, like, if I look at, and I think this is fair to say this, right? Look at your offensive depth chart. The one name that I can say, and again, I can be wrong, that I can really bank on is Terry McLaurin, which is not to say that, like, Treylon Burks can't emerge this year, and he's obviously in the midst of resuscitating his career, that your rookie receiver, Antonio Williams from Clemson, can't contribute as a rookie, or Chig Okonkwo can't be awesome coming over from the Tennessee Titans, or Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt and Katron Allen and Rachaad White can't carry the load at running back. But I think it's a fair critique to say, like, McLaurin's the one guy we know is going to be really good. Outside of Terry, who are a couple names on your offense that you think will exceed expectations this season?
Yeah, I think you're talking about, Terry, like that's a demonstrated and proven, space for him that, like he's been so consistent. And that's why, like, man, he's a commander through and through. The thing that, we don't talk about, and it's not that big, the topics elsewhere just because it's not stat driven, but I really like our offensive line here. And we've got two exceptional tackles in Josh Connolly and Laramie Tunsil, Dan Cosme over at right guard. And so I feel like when you're talking about, offenses and teams in general, line of scrimmage, man, that's where it comes down to in the NFL. You've got to be able to get down on both sides of the ball, pass protection, the run blocking. And so those two offensive tackles for us, they'll be significant. These are real athletes, Nick, that can block and get out in space and play in the screen game. They've got physicality with them in the run game. So having those two spots, and then a number of guys that you spoke on, just like competitiveness at wide receiver with a guy like Luke McCaffrey or Jalen Lane, and added Van Jefferson. You talked about Chig earlier. So the strength of our team is going to be the team. And we're very comfortable with that, knowing that it's all of us that will make the difference. And so we're training and leading in that way. And I like how that feels. And doesn't have to be this guy's a number 2 or number 3 option. It's just, hey, man, what are the roles that these guys can play and absolutely max it out?
And one thing you are 100, not that you need me to confirm it, but Laramie Tunsil and Josh Connerly, last year's first-round pick, should be absolute monsters. You're 100% right at the bookend tackle positions on your offensive line. Now, Coach, I feel I have to ask this question, and I'm sure, like, this player is under contract with another team. But Brandon Ayuk is currently a San Francisco 49er. There's a lot of buzz that he wants to play with you guys and wants to play with Jaden, obviously spend time at Arizona State together. Instagram videos this weekend wearing a Washington Commanders hat. Now, I'm not going to ask you to comment on him specifically, but more just overall. You guys are talked about as being a team that could be interested in adding a receiver or a skill position player at some point this offseason. Is that something you consider or think about as we move into training camp coming up next month?
Yeah, I recognize you got to ask it, Nick. No doubt about it, bro. But,
and I recognize what your answer is going to be, and that's totally okay.
Yeah, I commend you. You're competing. You're trying to ask. That's what you guys do at Westwood One, man. You compete. So I like it, but no, man, you ain't getting me on that one today. So where we're at with the team, and like, man, we're just like digging in as hard as we can, throwing a good week for this week.
I totally appreciate that. Now, I actually am not sure your interest level in answering this question, but another one that I feel like I have to ask, just because you coached there, you won a Super Bowl there with this quarterback. Russell Wilson, recently announced he was retiring and he's going to be on the NFL on CBS, and I think he should be pretty good in that role, right? When you think back on, because there's a lot of talk right now, is he a Hall of Famer? Is he not a Hall of Famer? I'll stop short of asking you that question, is he a Hall of Famer or not? But when you think about his career, you coached with him, you coached against him, how do you put that into perspective?
Yeah, and he is going to do great. And so the person that was in that role, I also got to coach in Matt Ryan, for the last 2 years, and Matt was great that way too. Quarterbacks, they have different perspectives sometimes than other people have, and they're able to share that and express that in such a way that they're doing it. And so thing that we'll always respect so much about Russ, like, man, does he dig in to go compete and find it. And that will be no different in him transitioning into a new space. I got to coach in Seattle during Russ's year 2 and 3, I suppose. So I got to see, the version that was kind of on the way up and coming. I thought the clutch gene is with him, like in the big spaces and the big moments. You felt like there was a big pass to be made. I can certainly remember like 2-point conversion in a championship game against, the Green Bay Packers, and to get us, into Super Bowl, or a touchdown throw into those spaces in overtime to go win. And so I think of Russ, I think of clutch moments, and I think of a really good competitor. And so I knew going in there, I could remember Pete telling me, hey, Dan, we really got something in this quarterback. They had just gone through his rookie year, and I believe they, went to the second round, maybe beat Washington in a wild card, and then maybe lost to Atlanta.
That's
after
exactly
that. But Pete knew back then that, hey, we're onto something here, and Pete and John were on it in terms of quarterback. And so good for them to let a guy compete. They had just signed somebody, and so allowing Russ to come in after not having an offseason as a rookie due to the lockout, like, I think that speaks to like the competitor that he is and what he stood for. And so for a long time, he's been one of the best deep ball throwers outside the pocket, especially Nick, in the league. If you look to the completion of those plays, man, is he a dangerous player out on the edge. And I can think of over and over, reps to down the field, completions to people outside the pocket.
Speaking of that NFC Championship game against Green Bay, are you surprised that Coach McCarthy kicked 2 18-yard field goals in the first quarter? I'm kidding. I still can't believe that years after the fact. That's not an actual question. My final question, Coach, and I think the psyche and the way that NFL head coaches think is very interesting, right? It doesn't seem, at least from the outside, that everybody's always having a lot of fun. And I'm sure even for someone like you, as positive as you are, it's not all sunshine and roses. That's just not how life is. But it seems like you have a lot of fun. How much fun is Dan Quinn having right now, coaching the Washington Commanders, entering a critical year 3?
Yeah, I think what I've learned in life, man, you can work really hard and also have a blast doing it, especially if the people that you're doing it with, man, they're on it with you and digging in hard. And so those are some of the things I love most about coaching and being right on the edge, man, like a 2-minute to go win the game right here. And so like those feelings of being on it, it's a blast. You got to put in the work, but kind of when you do it really hard and doing it with other people, it just makes that work a lot of fun. So like you can do both of them together. It doesn't have to be this grind and beat down that it is, man. Like you can absolutely work your ass off and like enjoy what that strain and battle feels like.
You guys are fascinating. I can't wait to watch it this year. Week 1 on the road in Philadelphia against the Eagles. A couple years removed from a title game. 2 new coordinators, like hotshot up-and-comers. I think this is going to be a lot of fun. And, Coach, I sincerely appreciate the time on this Monday morning. Thank you very much. Wishing you and your team health this summer entering the season, and we hope to catch up down the line.
Appreciate that a bunch, Nick. Get after it.
Coach Dan Quinn joining us here on You Better You Bet. I got to tell you, Coach Quinn goes to me, you're competing. I appreciate that. With the Brandon Ayuk, of course he's not going to. And just for we'll take a break in a second, to the listeners and viewers. I like when we had Kellen Moore on last week, I have to ask him about Alvin Kamara or Chris Olave's contract extension. I know he's not going to answer that question. And we don't have to pretend like he's going to. And that's why I'm honest, right? When I ask the question, hey, Brandon Ayuk's under contract. You're not going to comment. It's just 0% chance he's too savvy for that, right? That he's going to comment on Brandon Ayuk. I also have to ask the question. So we don't have to do the song and dance of me trying to pretend, like I'm Larry King here on CNN asking the hard-hitting question. He's not going to answer it. I have to ask it. All good. So let's just get out in front of it and have it be what it is. Man, they're a fascinating team. In the title game 2 years ago, a down year last year, and Dan Quinn takes a huge gamble, right, with his coordinators. David Blau was starting NFL games not too long ago at quarterback for the Lions. Durante Jones coming from the Brian Flores tree in Minnesota. Bit of a clash, and and Coach alluded to that, right, with his system and how he runs defense. I kind of really like it. And the unsaid thing here, of course, is Jaden Daniels. If Jaden stays healthy this year, let's say, and look, The chances of any quarterback playing 17 games doesn't feels unlikely, right? How physical the game is. If you get like 15 games of Jaden Daniels this year, how many games are the Commanders winning? It's a tough division, man. I love Dallas. The Eagles are going to be good. We saw the Commanders 2 years ago go to the title game. This is going to be a great summer here on You Better You Bet. All right, we'll take a break. On the other side, we'll get back to the NBA Finals. Game 3 tonight with the Knicks and Spurs. What went right for the Knicks in Game 2? What went wrong for the Spurs in Game 2? And why San Antonio keeps saying, it's not you, it's me. And why they're wrong about that. Next on a Monday.
Yama pulls up, jumper, won't go, rebound taken by Vassell, it's over, it's over. The Knicks survive. This magic carpet ride continues. 13 straight victories, and they lead 2-0 here in these NBA Finals.
Now, back to You Better You Bet with Nick Kostos on Westwood One Sports.
This segment on You Better You Bet sponsored by Progressive Commercial Insurance, protecting small businesses with affordable coverage options. Get a quote today at progressivecommercial.com, progressivecommercial.com. The great Mike Breen, a fellow Fordham Ram. Bob Kostos said last week on the show, more Syracuse grads in the media than Fordham grads. We're gaining on you, Bob. And thanks to Bob Kostos for joining us last week. Fordham Ram, Mike Breen on the call. ABC and ESPN on Friday night as the Knicks win Game 2 of the NBA Finals. And he's right, to be fair. They did survive. They survived the game. And they almost blew it, which would have been the second consecutive game that the Knicks almost blew in the fourth quarter. Because lest we forget, the Knicks led in the fourth quarter, a couple of minutes to go, Game 1, 94-86, before the Spurs took a 95-94 lead, and then the Knicks went nuclear the final 2 minutes and 16 seconds to win by 10. Bit of a different ending on Friday night with the Knicks winning 105-104, and this was heart-stopping, dramatic, just through the roof type stuff. And again, just as a Knicks fan, I'm so conditioned to my team losing games like that. And on shots like Wemby's finale, he missed, Sam Merrill missed, and the Knicks 2 wins away from an NBA championship. And just to get this out of the way, because I know it's a huge topic of conversation, of course, I am aware that President Trump will be in attendance of the game tonight. Now, apparently he will be in, I will do my Susan Waldman voice here, in James Dolan's box. My God, goodness gracious, of all the dramatic things, Roger Clemens. Shout out to Susan Waldman. President Trump will be in James Dolan's suite, apparently, per some reporting, here on Monday morning. My one comment on this will be, I am basing my vote in the next presidential election on whether or not the Knicks win tonight. Is that a tongue-in-cheek comment? Maybe. Maybe. Jalen Brunson, as it stands right now, is the favorite to be Finals MVP. He is plus 110 at BetMGM. The Knicks are minus 500. I still haven't wrapped my mind around this yet. I feel like I'm Mikal Bridges, when Bridges, who is he's been unbelievable. F them picks. He's been unbelievable in the series. He was great in Game 2. Does an interview on court after the game and is asked about the mindset, and he goes 0-0. Like, we're not up 2-0. Need to be desperate. That's how I feel. Like, yes, I feel like the Knicks are going to win the title, but really, like, it ain't over till it's over. 0-0. But worth noting, they're minus 500 at BetMGM to win the championship. Jalen Brunson is plus 110 to be Finals MVP. Now, obviously, he takes over down the stretch in the fourth quarter in Game 1 and just is incredible, helping the Knicks build the lead and then helping them retake the lead and eventually salt Game 1 away. And in Game 2, like, he has the steal on the ill-advised Victor Wembanyama pass. We will get to the Spurs part of this next segment here, and the foibles and the failures thus far of the San Antonio Spurs. But Brunson has the steal. He gets fouled. He makes one free throw. Doesn't even make both of them. So if Wemby makes that shot, they lose. But look, he was the best player down the stretch in Game 1, and he made the winning plays in Game 2. Also, he's shooting 34% from the field in this series. 19 of 56 is Jalen Brunson thus far in the NBA Finals. Here's my question for everybody. And maybe you think it's an if and not a when. You're welcome to your incorrect opinion. What happens, I will say if, just to account for whatever percent it may be on the pie chart. It's not 0%, but I acknowledge that it's at least 1%. What happens when and if, I'll throw an if in there, Jalen Brunson goes nuclear? Tonight, Game 4, the Knicks are up 2-0. And the favorite to be Finals MVP is 19 of 56 from the field. What happens when he, actually puts a full game together and starts playing well? And then what? Tyler, what's that hip? And then what? Brunson gonna make the shot, and then what? Yeah. And then what? And then what's gonna happen? I'm reticent to say this, but look, I said it before the series started. I said it before Game 2. I expect the Knicks to win tonight. 13 straight postseason wins. This is all-time stuff we're watching. All-time stuff. And what's really funny about this run is that in the face of overwhelming evidence to the contrary, everybody keeps saying, like a failing relationship, like George Costanza on a famous episode of Seinfeld, keeps saying, it's not you, it's me. I got news for all of you. It's not you. It's the Knicks. I'll explain why next.
Now, back to You Better You Bet with Nick Kostos on Westwood One Sports.
We'll get into the Stanley Cup Final next hour on the show. Zach Harper will join us as well from The Athletic and SiriusXM NBA Radio. Today, BetMGM players will receive an NBA Finals odds boost token. To use the token, add a wager made up of NBA playoff bets to your bet slip and activate the token. If you win your wager, you'll receive extra winnings and unrestricted bonus dollars. Download the BetMGM app today, and please gamble responsibly. So we mentioned in the last segment, Jalen Brunson is the Finals MVP favorite at plus 110. The best player on the court in Game 2 was Karl Anthony Towns, and there's no question about it. And his metamorphosis, not just in this Finals, but really in this postseason, has been something to behold. This is a player who was the butt of jokes for a long time. Former number 1 overall pick that won't live up to the billing. Lackluster defense. Not a leader. Mocked when he called himself the best shooting big man ever. How about now? A phrase that young people like to use, and I love it because I grew up in the video game age, right? When video games started, leveling up. Karl Anthony Towns has leveled up. And he hasn't leveled up from like level 18 to 19. No. He's at level 99. Right now, Cat is one-shot killing the optional hard boss in the video game. Like if this is Final Fantasy VII, he's one-shot killing Ruby or Emerald Weapon. Shout out to the nerds out there that get that. He is fully evolved. Right now, he's Charizard. Fully evolved form. He dominated Victor Wembanyama in Game 2 on Friday night. Now, if you're going to ask me, I'm a Knicks fan. Wemby or Cat moving forward? I'll take Wemby, obviously. This is not to say Cat's better than Wemby or that he's going to be better than Wemby in the future. He's not. But I'll tell you what. At this exact moment in time, Karl Anthony Towns is outplaying him. And there can be no question to the contrary. And if things continue like this, and Cat keeps outplaying Wemby, and Cat's woofing at Wemby after he dunks the ball and is physicaling Wemby down low, and he's awesome, and that pass he made out of the triple team is something out of a fever dream in Game 2, he's going to win Finals MVP. He's going to win Finals MVP. And as far as Victor Wembanyama goes, he's awesome. He could go down as one of, if not the best players ever. ... But the moment has been too big for him. Call me a hater if you want. I just prefaced that comment by saying he's going to go down likely as one of the best players ever. Maybe the best. We'll see. It's early, obviously, right? I feel like he's going to lose this Finals. That's okay. The moment's been too big for him. The brain fart pass to Stephon Castle in the waning moments of a tie game in Game 2 will go down infamous in Finals lore. It's one of the worst plays we've seen, one of the biggest brain farts we've seen in the history of sports in a big spot. No? Like you could compare it to the J.R. Smith not knowing time and score in Game 1 of the 2018 Finals. That's J.R. Smith and Victor Wembanyama. Maybe a more accurate and apropos comparison would be, because they're the best players on their individual teams that could have won the championship, and the Spurs still can, this Chris Webber calling timeout against North Carolina in the 93 NCAA championship game when they didn't have one. It is a gigantic faux pas. And after the game, Victor Wembanyama says, and I appreciate the honesty from Wemby, he says that things are blurry, that it's a little blurry to him. And what he means by that is it's moving a little fast, right? And I think anyone that tries to be successful at whatever it is they're trying to be successful at in their craft can appreciate when you first try and do something, right? And really succeed at something at a different level from where you've been at. It can feel that way. You're not fully in command. You're not yet fully in control. And that's not an insult. You need to do something before you can be great. It's very rare that you just walk into something and you're immediately the best at it. I'm not saying it's impossible, but it's not usually what happens. So as someone, and I will compare myself to Wemby briefly here, and I think people can understand the comparison, just that, like, I want to be great at my job. And I've only been doing solo radio for, 6 months now? Like, there are moments when I feel like, and I felt like, it's a little blurry. I don't have the experience. I appreciate what Wemby's saying when he says it's a little blurry for him. But it's what he says afterwards that sticks in my craw. And it's what Stefan Castle says after these games and what Mitch Johnson says that sticks in my craw. You would think that the Spurs would have learned their lesson at this point. They clearly haven't. And maybe they're going to be right and I'm going to be wrong, but I don't think so. We'll talk about that to start hour number 2 and get into why this Stanley Cup Final could be the best ever through 3 games. Keep it locked here, Westwood One Sports, on a Monday.
biggest names in the business are on You Better You Bet with Nick Kostos.
Hey, this is Joe Buck, and you have done it. You have found it. You are listening to You Better You Bet. Great decision.
Hi, this is Kevin Harlan of CBS, Westwood One, and TNT, and I'm listening, as you do every day, to You Better You Bet with the most handsome single man in the radio business. A man who, if I was not married for 38 years, I might consider myself the kind of guy that can electrify a listening audience and a crowd of bystanders watching him do what he does so well each and every day. Continue to listen right here on You Better You Bet.
This is You Better You Bet on Westwood One Sports, brought to you by BetMGM.
The magnificent Sports Monday edition of You Better You Bet rolls on. Nick Kostos, our crew, and you here on Westwood One Sports. How about that interview with Washington Commanders head coach Dan Quinn in the first hour of the show? He's pumped for his new defensive coordinator, Durante Jones, who comes over from the Brian Flores tree in Minnesota. He is pumped for his new offensive coordinator, David Blau. That's his name. That name, again, is David Blau. And a lot of other people are as well. Remember, we had Sal Palantonio on the show a couple weeks ago. Sal Pal bringing up that people in the league believe that David Blau will be an NFL head coach sooner rather than later. I think Brian Flores is as good as it gets when it comes to being a defensive coordinator in the NFL. I think he deserves another head coaching opportunity. He's suing the league. I don't know if he'll ever get it. And it's a brutal situation all the way around. I think Flores is the best when it comes to running a defense. So at least on paper, you can get excited about Durante Jones. And again, just consider the way people are talking about David Blau. It doesn't mean he's going to be the next Bill Walsh, but really smart people think he's going to be awesome. And if those two things are true in concert with each other, Jones gets it done as a defensive coordinator, right? With all the new talent on defense for the Commanders, whether it's, Sonny Styles, Kayvon Chason, Amenahue, Odafe Owe, Tim Settle on the defensive line and rushing the passer. I love me some Nick Cross, the free agent safety. I think he's awesome, one of the underrated defensive players in the league to go along with Sonny Styles. The defense is going to be way better this year. And if David Blau can coax it out of this offense, which I do think needs a little help at the skill positions, the Coach Quinn answer about that was funny. I was like, hey, your skill positions look like they're not as good as they could be. His answer was, well, let me tell you about our offensive line. And I appreciated that because the offensive line should be pretty good. I think he knows that the skill position needs a little help. And maybe that comes in the form of the insane, in a bad way, Brandon Ayuk. Maybe it's Stephon Diggs. I have no idea. I would expect the Commanders to add somebody. David Blau gets this rolling here. And Jaden Daniels stays healthy. The Commanders can easily go back to the playoffs. Easily be a playoff team this year. And you do have to tell yourself a little bit of a story to get there. It's not like, the Eagles, you feel like even without A.J. Brown and even with Jalen Hurts struggling last year for him at least, you do feel like the Eagles are going to roll out of bed and win 9 games. You don't necessarily feel that way about the Commanders, right? It's not a lock that it's going to happen. Not that it's a lock for the Eagles, but you understand what I'm saying. So you do have to tell yourself a little bit of a story to get you there. It's a believable story, though, isn't it? For the Washington Commanders. Love the interview with Dan Quinn. Otherwise, Hour 1 of the show on this Monday morning devoted to Game 2 of the NBA Finals. Karl Anthony Towns leveling up. He's at level 99. He's one shot killing the optional, ridiculously hard boss. He is taking it to Victor Wembanyama. He is like Indiana Jones' Temple of Doom, showing his heart still beating to him. And yes, that's a little graphic, but you understand, right? He's taking it to Wembanyama. And Wemby felt like entering the series was the final boss. And he's getting one-shotted by Karl Anthony Towns right now. And the Knicks are up 2-0, despite the fact that Jalen Brunson is shooting 34% from the field. 13 straight postseason wins for the Knicks. One of 2 teams in the history of the NBA to accomplish that lofty goal. 8 straight road wins. Best point differential ever in a postseason. they close this out, this is a historic team. And I tried telling you that a couple weeks ago after they beat the Cavs in Game 2, and I got a lot of blowback, a lot of pushback. How can you say that? Look who they've played. At some point, you just look at a team, and to quote DJ Khaled, all they do is win. That's it, no matter what. And everybody's hands go up, and they stay there. We'd never dream of putting them down. And at some point, you have to acknowledge what you're watching. And that doesn't mean that we won't open the show tomorrow morning and I'll be crushed after a Spurs win. Obviously, San Antonio can win. But my expectation is that the Knicks win tonight. And I think we're busting out the brooms. And I say that with no arrogance at all. You have to know this about me at this point. And the people that know me well know this. Longtime listeners and viewers know this. I don't want to say I'm negative, because the implication there is that if things are equal, I'm going to take the negative side. I don't think that's fair. But I call it like I see it. And I would say, while I'm not negative, I would say I'm generally pessimistic. I'm not always confident, especially as it concerns the Knicks. And I think given the history of the franchise, you have to be able to understand that. So it should not be taken lightly that I think they're going to sweep. Like, that's not me waking up with the orange and blue pom-poms and the orange and blue glasses. That's not what it is. I think they're better. How can you disagree with that? Doesn't mean they're going to win. You know, Suns were up 2-0 against Milwaukee, and the Bucks won 4 straight. Different story, right? Phoenix won the first 2 games at home. But like, we've seen it this decade where teams come back from 2-0 down. Again, not the same thing. The Knicks can obviously blow it. And if they do, just thank God my wife and daughter are happy and healthy. Let's hope that happens forever. Just like, please don't blow this, Knicks. On the Spurs. Every time Victor Wembanyama, and this sounds like I don't mean it to be a backhanded compliment, it's going to come across as one. I think he's wise beyond his years. Like when I was his age, like I'm smashing the bong all the time. I'm functional, but like I'm kind of an idiot. I'm kind of an idiot now at 43. He's 22 and he sees the forest beyond the tree. He sees it. He gets it. He has the self-awareness to say, like, yeah, like, it's blurry for me right now. And I understand. It makes me think of that great Puddle of Mud song. And you take it all away. Good song. Of course it feels blurry. How could it not? It's understandable. I appreciate his honesty, and he's a really, really, really smart guy. Even if I do think he's like tall French version of John Lovitz from The Critic. He loves to criticize everyone and everything, but maybe doesn't hold himself to the same standard. That's a story for another time. He's a kid. He's 22. But I want to read everybody this quote from Victor Wembanyama. So this is after the fact, not after the game, but this weekend, talking about Game 2. And I quote, "I think the key is acceptance." So he's like Buddha. Like he's 22-year-old French Buddha, basically. "I think the key is acceptance. A lot of times, it's about taking a step back and realizing the journey that's behind us, what's ahead of us, and just being okay with who I am, where I am, and what I'm doing. At the end of the day, this is everything that I wished for." Okay, kind of sounds like something you'd read on the back of a matchbook, but still, I understand. He would add, "There's really no reason to overthink it. This is what I'm built for." He was in Central Park yesterday sketching a statue. I like that about him. I think it's cool. I mean that. At what point do we say, "Thou doth protest too much"? If you keep telling us, "I'm ready for the moment. I'm built for this moment. No, seriously. No, this time, it's going to be true. This time I'm ready. I'm built for this time. I'm going to handle the pressure." At what point does it become too much? And does he become the boy who cried wolf. Fair or unfair? Like, stop saying it and go do it. And I say that with zero anger or animosity. I'm a Knicks fan. I hope they lose. But I'm being honest with the way I'm critiquing him here. Just like, enough. Like, not everything has to be like your Sun Tzu, The Art of War. Like, not everything has to be like your Plato or Socrates or Buddha or whomever. Your Gandhi. That's not what, it doesn't have to be this. At some point, you can just say, see you in game 3. Enough already, right? And I love the refrain that we get from Steph Castle and members of the San Antonio Spurs, who keep saying, and I'm paraphrasing, it's us. We need to play our game. And Greg Popovich, here, you bet on this Monday, Nick Kostos and Westwood One Sports. Greg Popovich addressed the team. And look, I hope that Pop is in good health. He's obviously in good enough health to go to the games and address the team. I want, just like he doesn't, I'm not saying this in a mean way, like it sucks to see him after a stroke, like not look as great. As a human being, it just kind of sucks. I do feel that way. So Greg Popovich addresses the team before they get on the flight to New York and says to them, and I'm paraphrasing, this is this is third hand now. We're playing a game of telephone. What players said, Pop said, and my paraphrasing of what the players said. Is that the first 2 games happened, and you flush it away, and go play your game. And games 1 and 2 were winnable games. And to a degree, I understand it. But just think about the run that the Knicks have been on, right? And I do take some pleasure as a Knicks fan in saying this. I admit it. I do. When relationships end sometimes, there's the famous quote, and I've said it a few times during the show today, popularized by Seinfeld and the great George Costanza episode, right? You can't say it's not, I invented, it's not you, it's me. The San Antonio Spurs right now are like Costanza. It's not you, it's me. It's not actually what you're doing, it's what I'm doing. The Cleveland Cavaliers, they couldn't stop saying, it's not you, it's me. Fans nationwide, members of the sports media, can't stop saying, and now it feels like, because you have no choice at this point now, up 2-0 coming home in the finals. It's not you, it's me. It's not the Knicks, actually. It's that the Hawks stink. And it's not the Knicks. It's that the Sixers stink. And it's not the Knicks. It's that the Cavs stink. And just ask Cleveland, the Cavs are actually up 2-0 in the finals if you ask Kenny Atkinson and James Harden. They're actually here. They actually won on Friday night. It wasn't the Knicks. It was the Cavs, if you ask them. And now, it's the Spurs. It can't be that the Knicks are just awesome. It has to be everything else. And I have to imagine, and I am a Knicks fan saying this, and I am a little biased, and I admit that, right? If you're a Spurs fan, are you tired of hearing that already after 2 games? No, it can't be them. It can't be them. Can't. No. 13 straight postseason wins. Ridiculous point differential. 8 straight postseason road wins. Oh, it's not you, it's me. Or, and hear me out, it's them. It's them. At some point, when the other team wins every game, at what point do they get some credit? When does that happen? When is that going to happen? After they win? Do you understand what we're watching? Doesn't have to end well. And maybe I'll have big time egg on my face. And if I do, and the Spurs come back and win, obviously I'll be the first to credit them. And you know what I'll say? I'll say they were right. And I was wrong. I have no problem admitting it. A lot of people in life don't. Nick Kostos, I'll tell you when I was wrong. Easily. With no problem. I'll tell you I was wrong. And I'll tell you the Spurs were right. And that it wasn't the Knicks. It was them. But I'll speak my truth. I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think it's going to happen. I think the Knicks are going to take care of business. Now, as we turn our attention to Game 3 tonight, the Knicks are 2.5-point favorites. My sense is, from a betting perspective, San Antonio will draw action as we move closer to tip-off, and that this spread will close a little lower than it is right now. I don't think the Spurs will close a favorite in the game, but my sense is it will close a little lower. Great. Awesome. I'll bet the Knicks. I'll bet at a short price, and I can be wrong. I'm saying this, and yes, there is some arrogance in this as a Knicks fan. My team's won 13 straight. There is some, and I can be wrong. I'll bet the team that's won 13 straight games at a really small price to win a 14th straight. Instead of, trying to, and this is an expression that we use with betting, it can be applied to other things in life, like trying to catch a falling knife. You want to bet against the Knicks? They've won 13 straight. You're trying to catch a falling knife. Maybe you get it, or maybe you get cut. I'm not interested in that tonight. I expect the Knicks to win. I expect them to win tonight and go up 3-0. Call me arrogance, whatever. That's fine. If I thought they would lose, I would tell you, and I'd be upset about it. I don't think that. I think they're going to win. And if and when they do, 1 win away from a championship, 14 straight postseason wins. If they win tonight, what's everybody going to say? What's everybody going to say? We'll find out on the other side what our friend Zach Harper has to say about the NBA Finals. And by the way, 2 weeks from tomorrow, round 1 of the 2026 NBA Draft. We'll get into a little bit of that with our friend Zach Harper and all things NBA Finals with the great Talk Hoops next on You Better You Bet.
recovering from the high of the conference finals. But I mean, here we are. We can't change the past now. We're already focused on game 3.
Now, back to You Better You Bet with Nick Kostos on Westwood One Sports.
This segment on You Better You Bet sponsored by Progressive Commercial Insurance, protecting small businesses with affordable coverage options. Get a quote today at progressivecommercial.com, progressivecommercial.com. That's the voice of Victor Wembanyama. And just to reiterate what I keep saying, I think Wemby's brilliant. He's wise beyond his years. And I appreciate his honesty at all points, saying like, but we all thought. I love the emotion that he displayed after they beat the Thunder on the road in Game 7. Also, you still had to play the NBA Finals. I like when Wemby, after every loss, says, you know what, we're built for this. And it's not you, it's me. At some point, does Victor Wembanyama need to just stop talking and just say, we'll see you in game? Like I love it. From one sense, from one angle, also, like, you don't have to be Socrates. You don't have to be Plato. This is not the art of war. We don't need, like, the philosophical quote after every little, just go win the game, Wemby. Don't get dominated by Karl Anthony Towns tonight. Let your game speak for itself. Also, I'm a New Yorker saying that, so take it for what it's worth. Joining us on the show live from New York City, the site of Game 3 of the NBA Finals, is friend of the show, the well-coiffed, well-groomed, beard looks great, hair looks great. Our friend Zach Harper, I'd say it's very good. The Athletic and Sirius XM NBA Radio on Twitter at Talk Hoops. My friend, welcome to the show. How's New York treating you?
New York's treating me very, very well. I'm curious. Let's say we're in an alternate universe where it's the Celtics in this NBA Finals against Wemby and the Spurs, and the Celtics are up 2-0 after 2 games in San Antonio, and Wemby's saying all this stuff. Would you feel differently then? Or is this, hey, shut up, I want the Knicks to win this thing?
I have to be honest with you, and like I think the audience knows, and like our crew, I'm always, even if it's negative towards me, I'll always tell the truth. I'd say the same thing. Because it's kind of like, it's the human condition a little bit, right? When I was 22, all I was doing was getting stoned. So, like, I'm not trying to say, like, when I was 22, I'm smarter than him. He's clearly wise beyond his years. He's got a great head on his shoulders. He's seeing things properly. Just like, at what point is it just, I'm going to stop trying to be Plato after every game because you're losing right now and just go out and play and win the game? Like, who wants to hear this at this point after every game?
Well, I do, because I'm interested in how he views these losses, because I do think he's different, right? We're not getting this, we just got to give 110%, and we got to, we have to lock in for next. Shut up. Like, all the PR-driven nothings that we get game after game after game, and he's like, yeah, like, I think if I play normal, we win that game, which is true. If he was just normal in game 1, his normal self, they would have won. If he doesn't make these dumb mistakes, one dumb mistake, right? And part of it was on Steph Castle, because like, yo, you want to be a lead guard. Your big man has the ball in the last 10 seconds. You should be looking for that outlet pass, right? I think he started to throw it as Castle's looking. Castle turns around. Disaster for the Spurs. Then he took he took 2 good shots in the final minute. He missed them both, but like those aren't mistakes. Those just are.
He's 8 feet tall. Like, why is he settling for an elbow jumper like he's Kobe Bryant?
Because he's really good at it, and you can't block the shot. He settled for a shot that you can't block, and he barely missed it.
He's 8.
So
you know more about basketball than I do.
He's supposed to dribble into the paint. Now you have 3 great help defenders reaching at the ball, and you hope that he flails and gets free throws, and then we're mad at that.
He's the one, but like he's if it's true that he's the guy, and I'm not saying he will, I think he will be. Like, go dunk, do your Michael Jordan routine in Space Jam, dunk the ball from the foul line.
It's not that easy. It's actually really difficult.
But for him, he makes the impossible look possible. I wouldn't say this if it were another player. It's Victor Wembanyama we're talking about.
But he took about as good a shot as you can get in that moment, and it just was a little long. Like, that was exactly the shot they wanted him to take in that moment.
Did you think it was going in?
Pop. Absolutely, I thought it was going in.
Yeah, I was like, I'd be honest with you. Me too.
Yeah, I was like, kind of. So from where he shot it on the floor, I was basically there, but just up, like way up in the stands, right? So that's where we were. As it looked, I was like, oh my God, that's going, nope, just a little long. And then you're like, is there an offensive rebound? There couldn't have been because the Knicks were running on the court at that point. The Knicks were celebrating. The stands were going
Don't
crazy.
say that too loud. Don't say that too loud. I don't need like 1997 Knicks Heat players suspended after the fact like we got there.
Yeah, no, I thought it was going in, but I think it's good to hear from someone who has something to say, and if they come back and do something spectacular in the series, then he's right, and if they don't, then he is out for vengeance next season, which is also great for the NBA.
Oh, which he'll get. Which adds to the desperation of this, like a Knicks Spurs next year in the finals. Like if that happened, I pick the Spurs. Yeah. Knicks have to take advantage here. Now
it's either coming this week or it's coming a year from now, but it's coming.
Yeah, and I totally acknowledge and I agree with you. Yeah. Now perhaps this take of mine is a little colored by orange and blue by the fact that I love the Knicks. It does feel a little bit to me like San Antonio after the games, and Steph Castle was talking about how Greg Popovich addressed the team after game 2. Basically, like, those were winnable games, play your game. Why can no one give the Knicks credit? Like, the Cavs think that they won the NBA Finals. They actually were analytically better than the Knicks. And each of these games, the Spurs are like, actually, it's not anything that they're doing. It's what we're doing. What? Like, am I crazy here?
But I don't think you've, no offense, you don't remember basketball this late into the year. This is what everyone does. This is what everyone does. They're just like, oh, we play our game, we win. And there is, maybe a truth to, like, if you believe in your game plan and you execute your game plan, then you win most of the time. The Cavs, no. That team stinks in terms of contention. They ended up in the NBA or in the Eastern Conference Finals by default. And that's like James Harden be like, hey, I think it could have gone differently had it gone differently. Kenny Atkinson, analytically, we're up 2-1 in the series. Analytically, no, you're not. No, you're not. I looked at the analytics. No, maybe your shot quality was good, but no. Like, I do think people are giving the Knicks credit. I think they could give them more credit. I think the Knicks are the best team, right? Like, they've proven that. I don't think they were 2 months ago. But they have found the gear that they were searching for that people believe they could have, and that gear is better than what the Spurs have. Now, the Spurs can still win games. It doesn't mean they will get swept, although they might want to get to winning some games tonight to avoid that. But yeah, like, I think the Knicks are the best team. They're playing the best basketball. Got a little lucky, but guess what? You get a little lucky when you win a championship. That's how that works.
Yeah, it wasn't just, and I said this, right? Did you think the Sam Merrill shot was going in at the end of Game 1 of the Eastern Conference Final?
No, I don't believe anything this Cavs team.
Fair enough. I thought it was. I thought for sure it was going
capable of doing
in.
If it's successful. Like, no, there's not. There was as soon as the Knicks came back and made it a game, I knew I would have bet everything the Cavs were blowing that game.
Oh, it's pretty. I was there. It was pretty awesome. All right, I will not be in it. Let's talk it because you'll be in attendance tonight, correct? For Game 3?
Yes.
What is going to be different while trying to avoid any political statements if we can? How will this be a different experience tonight? Not just for members of the media, but for fans as well, with President Trump said to attend the game.
I'm curious because of just the crowd in general, because the ticket prices are so ridiculous, right? I'm curious what the crowd is like. I would. Can
I offer some context for you? Can I offer some context for you here? And this is not going to directly feed into it because you're talking about the crowd in the arena. So I was in Manhattan on Friday night watching with a bunch of my friends at a sports bar in Midtown. And after the game, we walked to the Garden to experience what it was like. And the game was in San Antonio, obviously. The streets, like 15 blocks away from it, was insane. So I don't know if we're going to get that same type of madhouse level tonight just because of the fact that the president's going to be there, right?
Well, and just the crowd in general, it's you've got to be pretty well off to afford $13,000 tickets, right? And it reminds me of what happened with the Warriors, 10-ish years ago, maybe a little bit longer than that, maybe that first run in 2015. But it was Golden State always had this amazing, rabid fan base that was selling out games even when that team sucked.
Remember We Believe against the Mavericks and how crazy that was?
Absolutely. Like that like I grew up, 80 miles away from that fan base. Like that fan base was ridiculous. And then all that tech money came in and started pushing those fans out, and it was still loud in there, but it wasn't the same that it had been. I think Knicks fans are a little different, so I do think it's going to be raucous, but I think it's going to be a weird vibe, not only from who's in attendance, but also who paid the money to be in there. Like, I don't think it's a guarantee that this is going to be the environment outside of the Madison Square Garden. Outside of Madison Square Garden, I'm expecting absolute chaos. Inside, I do wonder what that's going to be like. It can't just be 20,000 Fat Joes. That's not how that works.
That would be
He's
something,
everywhere, by the way. I can't avoid Fat Joe. I go on an NBA thing. He's there. I went to dinner last night. He was there. Like, I see him everywhere.
Have you had enough of Fat Joe?
I'm all good. I like him. I like his music. I think he's a fun sports fan. I don't need him at press conferences. I don't need him asking questions at press conferences.
Is he the most annoying celebrity Knicks fan? And if not, who is?
I'm not buying that clip of Timothy Chalamet step back jumper. Like, the Chalamet thing is kind of bothering me. Like, how many takes was that? How many takes?
Listen,
more than the fight scene in Dune? I don't know. Like, I don't know why the Chalamet part of it. You know what bothers me about the Chalamet part of it? If people are like, well, he was a fan when he was a kid. Okay, he's still a child. Like, he's 20-something. Like, he's still a child. I don't care that he was a fan when he was a kid.
Yeah,
I like the Ben Stiller of it all. I like Tracy Morgan. Like, I like these guys.
Me. Like, I was a fan when I was a kid. Where's my front row?
Why aren't we putting you? Yeah, why aren't we putting you courtside?
Where's my Kylie Jenner? I'm happily married. I'm just kidding. I'm happily married. I'm just kidding. Where were you at? What hotspot were you at last night that Fat Joe was at dinner with you guys?
I ended up at Nobu last night, and he was just there. He was just there, like,
dude,
holding court.
Good for you, man. Can I give a Nobu hot take here?
Sure.
Overrated?
Overpriced for sure. It's fine.
Like, certainly overpriced. It's good.
It's good. It's good. It's like a 7 out of 10.
Are we coming across like the type of people that would pay to go to game 3 of the NBA Finals, or no? Because just to be clear, I can't afford it. I will not be in attendance tonight.
No, this was a different world, but still a good world.
All right, you bet on this Monday. Zach Harper is our guest. Game 3 tonight. Knicks 2.5 point home favorite. What are you expecting from tonight's game? Who wins tonight's game and how?
That's interesting. It's just so hard for me to imagine the Spurs team getting swept, but also I do think like that the end of game 2 had to have been deflating. They can say whatever they want. I believe in Wemby's philosophical approach to everything, but if you were going to like make this a series, it's you knock down that shot, you don't turn it over. You pull out that victory like, oh my God, down 14, this Knicks team's rolling. They lock in the way defensively they were supposed to. Wemby was a monster at the end of that game until he missed those shots and had that turnover. But that's exactly like, oh, this is the comeback. The fact that they couldn't pull that off, I do think we have to remember, and it's been tossed out, from reality throughout this whole process. This is still a very young team that has not been through it. This Knicks team has been through it. And so I expect the Knicks to take that veteran approach, not get too high or too low, follow the Jalen Brunson of it all and win the game. I think it's probably like an 8 or 9 point win. Maybe free throws make it a little less close with the final margin, but I do think the Knicks are just in a spot. 13 in a row is something only one other team has done in playoff history. I think you have to respect that.
So let's try and put that in perspective. Now, obviously, Zach knows, I know, you know that the series is not over. The Spurs can obviously come back and win. It would be horrible as a Knicks fan if that happened, but I have to acknowledge that it could happen.
Sure.
Right now, though, in the same way we can acknowledge that reality, we can also acknowledge the reality staring at us. The Knicks are up 2-0 and won the first 2 games on the road. They're a huge favorite at BetMGM to win the championship. So let's say they do it. Whether it's a sweep, whether it's in 5, whatever, right? Especially if it's a sweep. And they will have completed, Zach, like not figuratively, literally, one of the greatest postseason runs in the history of not just the NBA, in the history of sports. If they finish the deal. How will Zach Harper put that in perspective if and when it happens?
I mean, it would be one of the greatest runs. I mean, arguably, like, the 2017 Warriors won their first 15 games, right, of the postseason, and then with the chance to sweep out, they dropped the ball against it
kind of got dropped
Cleveland
a little
team.
bit by the officiating in that game. That's fine in Game 4.
A little bit,
okay.
but also, like, you got Kevin Durant, Steph Curry on the team. You should probably go and smash everybody. So, that they had the chance to sweep out, they didn't. The fact that the Knicks have lost 2 games by a total of 2 points, and funny enough, like, if that Wemby shot goes down and they don't get a shot on the other end,
they lose by 1.
You lose by 1 again, right? Like, that's the only way that they can lose in this series, or lose in this postseason. Like, yeah, like, you have to respect that. I never bought any of that BS. It's why I picked the Knicks to win the finals. Like, I never bought any of it. Well, the road's so easy. Of course they're winning no. We have had easier roads than this for teams in the East or just teams in general in the postseason. No one's ever had this level of dominance where this was their second win in this streak by single digits. Like, this is one of the most dominant runs we've ever seen. And if they complete this by winning 15 in a row, sweeping a great Spurs team, I don't know how you put any other run definitively above it.
Final couple questions, lightning round, just as far as the game and finals MVP is concerned. So you like the Knicks to win the game tonight. Who do you think is because I think, like, we could say Brunson's the best player in Game 1, Cat's the best player in Game 2. Who will be the best player tonight for the Knicks? And do you agree with BetMGM's pricing for finals MVP? Jalen Brunson is the favorite at plus 110, followed by Cat at plus 165. So who's the best Knicks player tonight? And if they win, who do you expect to win finals MVP?
I would say it's probably someone like OG tonight. I think OG has a big game. He broke out. He had that fourth quarter in Game 1. He had a great Game 2. I think he's probably the best player. I think Cat was the best player in the first 2 games, bar none. Like, I know Brunson had the finish. Cat is the reason they won those games. He has been phenomenal. He should be the finals MVP leader right now. I think because of the clutch shots, be like, ooh, Brunson has not played that well by his standards. He's shooting horrifically.
34%.
Yeah, the Spurs have done a great job on him, but to me, Towns has been the guy.
If the Spurs win tonight, obviously it goes without saying that Wemby will have to play well. Who steps up and has a huge game for the Spurs besides Wemby if the Spurs are to win tonight?
It has to be Castle. Like Fox had a good bounce back Game 2. He tweaked his ankle towards the end there, and that's a little concerning because it's been a problem. But Castle's been miserable. Like, they've done a phenomenal job. Castle is so good at getting into the lane, and then I'm just like pulling my hair out. Like, do something with it. Go up for the layup. Take that little 8-foot jump shot. Kick it to the corner. Do something. He is hopping into the lane and then just holding the ball, like, slowly computing. That's not his game. I think the moment is getting to him a little bit. And obviously the Knicks defense is getting to him a little bit, but he's got to have a monster Game 3.
Final question, 15 days away from round 1 of the 2026 NBA draft. What is, and this can be pencil, not pen, I'm not asking for a prediction. What is your strongest or hottest take right now as it concerns round 1 of the draft?
AJ Demancia is the top prospect. I want Darius Acuff more than I want anybody in that draft. I think Darius Acuff Jr. is like the next Damian Lillard. I think he's going to be a monster at the NBA level. I don't think anyone can guard him. I think he's going to be a phenomenal shooter. He's going to be a really good playmaker. And he's going to be the guy where we're like, he fell to 6th or 7th? That's crazy. Like 3 years from now, I think he's a monster.
Does he make it past Brooklyn at 6? And we're weeks out. There's a lot of intel still to be gleaned just where you're at right now. Does he make it past Brooklyn at 6?
I don't think so. I think Brooklyn or whoever's in that spot. I mean, I don't even know that he makes it past 5, but like I think if you're in that top 6, he is 100% in Sharpie on your board of like, we don't let him fall beyond us.
Yeah, I know, like, the thought process with the Clippers with Wagler over Acuff. I don't know. I kind of watched both in college. I thought Acuff was better for whatever that's worth. Great basketball evaluation.
He can actually dribble. Pretty good when you're a guard, yeah.
It's also like, hey, Illinois, would it have killed you guys to win that game on Saturday night at the Final Four and win me a bunch of money against Connecticut? You're the best, dude. Enjoy the game tonight. Enjoy New York City. The Athletic, Sirius XM NBA Radio will catch up with you down the line.
Thanks, buddy. Appreciate it.
Zach Harper here with us on You Better You Bet. I love him. He's right. Just for anyone that, like, look, Nobu is overpriced. It's just okay. better places to spend your money. Unless they'd like to host me, in which case there is no better place for me to spend my money. On the other side, we will break down what has been an epic Stanley Cup Final here on Westwood One Sports.
Sorsby wants to take a shot, running three, inside the 10 to the 5, touchdown! 55 yards to Caleb Goody.
Now, back to You Better You Bet with Nick Kostos on Westwood One Sports.
Before you ask yourself this question, yes, I do acknowledge the irony of what's about to transpire here in the next 30 seconds on the air. Today, BetMGM players will receive an NBA Finals odds boost token. To use the token, add a wager made up of NBA playoff bets to your bet slip and activate the token. If you win your wager, you'll receive extra winnings and unrestricted bonus dollars. Download the BetMGM app today, and please gamble responsibly. I promise we will get to the Stanley Cup Final. I have a lot to say about it. I think it's been great. Just we've had a lot going on the show today. And now we have this major piece of breaking news in the world of sports. So ESPN, courtesy of the highlight coming back from break. Former Cincinnati quarterback and now Texas Tech quarterback Brendan Sorsby, who had been ruled ineligible by the NCAA earlier this year after he acknowledged gambling on sports, including his own team when he was at Indiana. And Sorsby admitted to wagering at least $90,000 across more than 9,000 bets during his college career, including bets involving Indiana when he was a Hoosier back in 2022. So Sorsby, who had been ruled ineligible, a ruling coming down this morning by District Judge Ken Curry in Lubbock County, Texas, restores Sorsby's eligibility, saying the NCAA cannot prevent Sorsby from practicing, playing, or otherwise participating on Texas Tech's football team for the 2026 season. The NCAA has put out this message in response, quote, "The NCAA strongly disagrees with the court's ruling in Sorsby's case and is deeply concerned about the damaging, far-reaching, and broadly destabilizing ramifications of this outcome, which undermine and corrupt the integrity of sports. The NCAA is committed to supporting student-athlete mental health, but must continue to aggressively defend against actions that defraud college athletics and threaten competitive integrity, such as betting on one's own sport." Okay. This is a tricky one. Sorsby, is it better for fans if Sorsby plays? Definitely yes. He's an awesome prospect, thought of as a potential first-round pick in like a loaded quarterback class next year in 2027 in the NFL. College football will be more fun if Brendan's, and by the way, he's going to be suspended for the first 2 games as part of this. He's going to miss games against Abilene Christian and Oregon State, so this is an absolute joke. And Texas Tech is one of the best teams money can buy. So that is a joke. It is better for fans, like for us, if he plays. Now, I am a gambler. You know that about me. We're sponsored by BetMGM. I love to bet. I love to bet on sports. I am a huge believer because, I talk about this a lot. Now, I thankfully don't suffer from addiction, but I know a lot of people that do. And it's horrible. And in these instances, you obviously sincerely hope that people get well. And it's my sincere hope that Brendan Sorsby doesn't gamble again. It's a problem. Like, I'm not comparing, this is not to say I'm better than you, but like some people, it's like with drinking, can have 1 drink and that's it. Can smoke 1 cigarette, that's it. Can place 1 bet and that's it. For him, it's clearly an issue. I don't say that to mock him at all. I want him to get well. And part of me absolutely believes in second chances in life. This feels crazy. Because basically, there's no punishment here. Like, I'm not advocating for the young to lose his livelihood or never be able to play. That's not what I'm saying at all. I want him to do well. I'm a huge believer in life. And like I have a daughter, a young child. Like I want her to feel this as she gets older. It's important. There have to be consequences for actions. Or else, like, what's the point of rules? Why do they exist? Like Sorsby blatantly broke the rules. And a huge one. Like, I don't ever want to take the NCAA side on something. Like, that doesn't give me pleasure. They're right. Again, I'm not into like Sorsby should go thrown in jail or never play again. 2 games for gambling on his own team? Come on. And it's nothing against the young man. It isn't. I hope he's great. It feels like we're crossing the Rubicon a little bit here, and not in a good way. You may never hear me say this again. I think the NCAA is right on this one. Even if I acknowledge it's better for all of us if he plays, because he's awesome. A complicated one. Complex storyline. Not black and white. Shades of gray. Power Hour, final hour coming up next. We will start the hour talking NFL with our good friend, the great Mike Sando from The Athletic.
Now, back to You Better You Bet with Nick Kostos and the crew. Presented by BetMGM on Westwood One Sports.
Bring it up, Kenny. Final hour. Power hour. You Better You Bet on Westwood One Sports. Nick Kostos, our amazing crew, Mike Sando, and you. The Power Hour and every hour here on You Better You Bet, brought to you by BetMGM. Make it legendary by downloading the BetMGM app and visiting BetMGM.com. We will try to, in the final hour of the show, fit in the Stanley Cup Final, which has been extraordinary. History-making, some would say. I am one of those people. And it's not just the eye test that shows it. I have stats and numbers to back it up. We'll get to the Stanley Cup Final. Vegas up 2-1 on Carolina. And happy World Cup week to those that celebrate. Later this hour, I will tell everybody the 5 teams that can actually win the World Cup. And no, the United States, unfortunately, is not one of them. Our bets for tonight will close the show. Give me the Knicks against the Spurs. I know you're surprised. But joining us right now to kick off the hour, one of our absolute favorites, one of the giants in NFL media. When you think Hall of Fame, you think Mike Sando. When you think great sports writing, you think Mike Sando. And honestly, he's been one of the impresarios in the Pacific Northwest covering the National Football League. So there's no one better to have on the show to talk about the career of Russell Wilson, which we will do among other topics right now, than our friend Mike Sando of The Athletic on Twitter at Sando NFL. He has a column up that dropped over the last couple days on Russell Wilson's Hall of Fame candidacy, with Russ officially retiring. Quarterback Tears is coming out later this summer, always a favorite amongst fans and people in the media, so we look forward to that. Mike Sando with us on the show. My friend, welcome back. How are you?
Oh, it's good to be here. Thank you. Yeah, I love our conversations.
Let's have one right now. So obviously, I want people to always check out Mike's work. It's exceptional. I think The Athletic in general does an amazing job with everything, especially the National Football League. So people, I want to check out the full column, but I will kind of ask you to summarize it in verbal form here. Russell Wilson's Hall of Fame candidacy, Mike, is going to be a hot button conversation. Obviously, right? With him retiring, the dizzying heights that his career reached in Seattle, and then obviously the resounding thud the last couple of years in Denver, Pittsburgh, and in New York with my Giants. In Mike Sando's, and I mean this sincerely, there are a few people that are better equipped to answer this question than Mike. In your estimation, is Russell Wilson a Hall of Famer, and why?
I would say I would lean towards yes, based on his 10-year run. However, I feel like what is a Hall of Famer now with them changing the rules to get in? It's harder to get in. So we've seen, obviously, Eli Manning has failed twice. We've seen even Antonio Gates, Luke Kuechly took a year, which is surprising to me. Those guys are locks. So I'm not betting that he's going to make it. And I think the next 5 years of his eligibility, sort of the clock, is important for him because of how it ended. We're so based, a lot of times rooted in the recent, right? And we just need some time to remember that this guy was clearly a top 5 quarterback for a while. We can argue how long. And he was a special player. I think that's been easy to kind of gloss over the last few years because he hasn't been the most likable guy, right? I mean, he sort of got ahead of himself, acting like he was more than he was, and he fell flat on his face. And a lot of people kind of reveled in that. But I think over time that fades a little bit, and hopefully you're just left with, a body of work in Seattle that's probably going to be the ticket for him. I do think it's complicated because, number one, who's advocating for him? Right? He had this sort of weird thing with some of his teammates. The defensive guys thought he was getting too much credit. Is that all going to resolve? Because it feels to me there's just not a groundswell. He's had a bad fracture with the Seahawks related with the Seahawks franchise, right? So that's why I think time's really important for him, and it's an uncertainty right now, but I could certainly make a good case for him.
Can you punch that point? And I read the article, so I know it, and I want everybody to check it out as well at The Athletic. Yeah. Can you please punch home what you're referring to when you say, and I'm paraphrasing what you said, he's kind of feeling himself a little bit, right, when he leaves Seattle? Like, kind of like what happened there leading to what happened in Denver that kind of rubbed people the wrong way?
Yeah. Well, there was this kind of tension early in his career because they had the great defense, and so what was the real reason for it? That was the thing in Seattle with the guys on defense. So the defense falls off. Wilson then ascends and becomes this top player, tier 1 in quarterback tiers for a couple of years in a row, unanimous 1 year. But he was pushing against a old school, a little bit head coach in Pete Carroll, who wanted to run the ball, had a very distinct formula for how he thought the game should be won that was rooted in tradition, right? Not rooted in the let's throw it all over the yard. And so Russell Wilson felt like that was stifling him. And man, I can be Tom Brady. I can be Peyton Manning. I can be the guy back there running the whole show. This coach is kind of holding me back. You know, I love him for other reasons, but get me out of here. I'm going to go somewhere else. And so he goes to Denver. They give him the huge contract, and he's got Aaron Rodgers coach even, right? Nathaniel Hackett at the time. And you're thinking, okay, let's see you do it. You're gonna be one of these guys. And not only does it not go well, but he just falls off a cliff, falls on his face. And so I think that fed into the idea of, okay, how much did he need around him, you know, to really do this? Maybe Pete Carroll, maybe father knows best, right? Pete Carroll had these limitations and reins on him that allowed him to shine within that. I think what also happened along the way was he lost his athleticism. I think it's a warning for any quarterback whose legs are a big part of them being great, right? And I think we would agree Lamar Jackson is a good passer, but without his legs, is he a great quarter? You know, is he great? Is he tier 1 without his legs? Well, Russell Wilson certainly wasn't. And so as he got older and maybe leaned into trying to be what he wasn't, which was the line of scrimmage orchestrator who doesn't need his legs to slice and dice, he couldn't do it.
Two-part question here. I think I know the answer to both. Right, wrong, or indifferent. I will present you with two scenarios. If something goes differently, is he a lock Hall of Famer? Number one is the obvious, right? The Seahawks don't throw it at the end of Super Bowl 49 against the Patriots. Marshawn Lynch runs it in. The Seahawks go back-to-back. They're back-to-back Super Bowl champions. Russ has 2 rings. That's the first one. And the second is, instead of getting traded to Denver, and this is more of a stretch because I don't know if this ever would have happened, but you understand where I'm going with it. If Russell Wilson retires and never joins the Denver Broncos, those two scenarios, is he a lock Hall of Famer if either of those two things happens?
Well, if both of them happened, I think that's the lock, right? Hey, you're a one franchise, 2 Super Bowls with that level of a peak. I think that's one of the issues with Eli Manning is I don't think he was ever perceived to be that top tier, right? He wasn't as dominant of a player, didn't have as great of individual seasons, didn't have as great of offenses. So I think if both of them happen, yes. If he gets the second Super Bowl, I think that's probably. I mean, it goes to closer to a lock because he was really big in the comeback in that game too. I mean, it was that pass down the sideline that was juggled and caught. Remember that?
The Jermaine Curse?
Yeah, like that's not even really talked about anymore. Like it didn't happen. It's kind of like Kurt Warner was quarterback of the Cardinals and threw the 60-yard touchdown pass to Larry Fitzgerald to take the lead in the final 3 minutes against Pittsburgh. That's a legendary play. That's a legendary play to take the lead in the Super Bowl, right? Like no one even talks about it, like it didn't happen. Well, it did happen. And I think when we look at these things like that, if he got the first Super Bowl, the second Super Bowl, that would be part of the legend. That would be part of his legend more. And I think it would move him closer. Retiring at that point without having the second one, I don't know about that. I mean, it's probably a little bit better than now.
I'm fascinated to get your answer to this because you know him. I'm not saying you know him like on a great personal level, but you know him better than 99% of people do, right? So one of the things you wrote about in the column, and again, I want everybody to check it out at The Athletic, that I thought was interesting, right? Let's say he's great with the media, and he's affable, and he's more personable, and he doesn't feel as scripted, right, as he's been in the past. that may go a long way into like changing kind of the narrative, the reception around him. I don't think anyone would disagree with that, Mike. The question that I want to ask someone who you spent a lot of time around him, is he capable of doing that? Or is this just who he is? And no one's saying he's a bad guy or a criminal or anything like that, but he does come across as inauthentic.
Well, I don't think anybody knows him. I mean, I don't know him. You know, did I spend a lot of time around him? Not really, because I was off the beat before he was the starting quarterback for the team, and he became the starting quarterback right as I was leaving my job as I was covering the NFC West for 5 years for ESPN. That ended going into about his second season. So I have not spent, a ton of time around him like I would have on the beat, but I've certainly watched him very closely. I think he's one of those guys that nobody really knows. He hasn't let them in, and so he hasn't been vulnerable. I think part of his success has been rooted in the idea that he believes all things are possible and all this stuff that sort of seems corny to a lot of people, but it worked for him. You can't be that forever, can you? You know what I mean? You gotta. Well, I guess. Don't you have to let your guard down?
Can I ask you just an opinion? Can I ask you just an opinion?
Yeah.
This is just your opinion. This is not a prediction. Just like your opinion. I think it's interesting, right? Because if you're CBS, I think if this hits, he's going to be magnificent. He's really smart. He's good looking. He's a quarterback. He won a Super Bowl. If he puts it all together, like, he's going to be awesome in this role. He'll be better than Matt Ryan if he's good, if he hits his ceiling outcome for CBS. Do you think he can get, and I'm not asking you to say like he's going to suck, that's not what this is, but do you think he can do it? He'll be able to do it?
I guess I'm skeptical on it till I see it because he hasn't been that. I mean, he said all the right things, but to such an extent that it's like almost annoying to some people. It's not as authentic, right? So does he have it in him to actually reflect on his career? And it may be too soon for him to do that. Sometimes I feel like when a head coach gets fired and gets a job right away, that's like the worst thing. Like sometimes you need some time to process what happened, right? And become better off of it. He's coming straight from, remember, not that long ago, he's saying, hey, I'm New York. I'm wearing a Knicks jacket at the Knicks game, and I'm going to lead this team. I'm going to be the leader for these guys. Do you think that locker room and those guys saw him as the leader of them just coming in because of who he is? So who does he see himself as right now? Probably Hall of Fame quarterback, right? Are we really going to get that level of reflection and vulnerability all of a sudden now, 5 minutes after he was just playing? That would surprise me a great deal. And I think we are also in an era where these analysts are over scrutinized. Like, it's hard to hide. You're going to be criticized right away. Even Tom Brady was, right? I mean, Tom Brady's gotten better in my opinion, but right out of the gates, this is Tom Brady, TB12, the legend. And people were like, this guy sucks. He's not watching the games, right? And he had to get better at it, and he did. So can Wilson do that? I think we need to see.
Yeah, and it's just the interest. It's just the way perception works, right, and how it can become reality. I think if you're a listener and viewer right now, you'll agree with this. Right, wrong, or indifferent. Viewers are going to give Mike Tomlin a longer leash than they will Russell Wilson because Mike Tomlin is intensely likable and comes across as being intensely authentic, where that has not always been the case. And I think even the biggest Russell Wilson fans would have to admit that. Mike Sando is with us on the show from The Athletic, on Twitter at Sando NFL. Quarterback Tiers coming out later this summer. I just want to talk quarterbacks with you for a second here. I want to have some fun. Here's a hypothetical for you. Okay. 3 quarterbacks that will be up for Hall of Fame. Like, one is already. One just reset the clock. One just retired. 2 minutes to go. And people hate when I do this, but this is what I'm going to do. 2 minutes to go. 2 minutes to go. Down by 4. Russell Wilson, Phillip Rivers, or Eli Manning. Who are you taking?
Wow. I like Wilson. I like Prime Wilson in that. It's interesting that you put it that way because I think Phillip Rivers was a better quarterback for longer. I think he was really, 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 really good. But to me, in today's game, like Wilson and his prime and the ability to create with his legs and just the way that he had at his best, the ability to scramble and get the scramble drill with those guys running around, that's where my mind goes first. Now, of course, knowing me, I'd like to study it. I'd like to look at other 2-minute situations and see how those came out. But that's kind of where I go first. How about you?
Well, I mean, I still have the Eli Manning jersey I got 5 days after he was drafted. So yeah, like I choose Eli. He did it twice. He won 2 Super Bowls, beat the Patriots in 2. No.
Oh yeah, he did. They were, they were great performances with really good defensive support now too. I mean, like they had to score 38 points in those games.
Oh man.
I think
is he a Hall of Famer?
That's the tough part about Eli Manning is that he was never really the center of a quarterback-driven offense, right? To the extent that some of the other guys were, including Rivers.
Manning choose one, Eli Manning or Phillip Rivers?
You mean for the better player? I would
just
say
in general.
Phillip Rivers.
Just like in general.
Yeah,
Eli
in general,
Manning or Phillip Rivers?
I would go with Rivers.
I have to tell you, this is like where my fandom kind of creeps in sometimes. It makes me really angry. Even if I can acknowledge that reasonable minds can disagree. And I obviously acknowledge that.
Eli Manning was very smart in deciding not to go to the Chargers.
Well, how about, okay, let's play the hypothetical game. Eli Manning is the quarterback of the 2006 Chargers that went 14-2 and lost to the Patriots, and Marty gets fired. And by the way, they were right, because the late A.J. Smith fires the late Marty Schottenheimer, brings in Norv Turner. Do the Chargers win a Super Bowl with Eli Manning?
Was that the year that Rivers blew his ACL?
That's a great question. That was 2007, and I actually still hold in that moment. So in that championship game, 2007, the Patriots won to go 18-0. They won 21-12. I bet the Chargers plus 9.5 they covered. Nate Kading made 4 field goals. That was all they had. I think watching the game, because Tomlinson was hurt and didn't play, and Rivers played on a torn ACL. I think the Chargers would have beaten the Patriots, and we would have gotten Eli v. Rivers in the Super Bowl. So that was 2007 when he got hurt. 2006, they lost as the 1 seed to New England.
Yeah, 2006 was a 14-2 team where they fired Marty Schottenheimer. Is that correct?
Correct. And that was
Rivers' first year as
the interception. Marlon McCree picks off Brady. Troy Brown forces the fumble. Patriots win the game, blow the 21-3 lead in Indy in the AFC Championship game to the Colts.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know if Eli's there. Does he do it? He's in his 3rd year as a starter then? Maybe he does. I don't know. Is that really how we decide these things? I mean...
Well, as an Eli Manning fanboy, like, yes.
That went bad for one guy and saying if the other guy was in there, then you think of the other guy's best moments and you just plug those in. We don't know what would have happened in those situations. I do think that Rivers was a higher level quarterback at his best, but those moments for Eli Manning are a part of his legacy that need to be considered for his Hall of Fame credentials. And that's why there's not, I see, that's why I wrote in the column, there's 2 different types of candidates here. There's the guys who sort of have all the stats and they retire number 1 and in passing yards and touchdowns. That's like Drew Brees or whatever. And they just go in. There's not a real debate. And then there's other guys who didn't do that, but have other things about them. Kurt Warner going to 2 franchises, right, that were kind of laughable and taking them both to the Super Bowl and playing great in those Super Bowls. Overcomes the fact that he had a huge donut in the middle of his career. I mean, he doesn't have the numbers overall, right? And so Eli Manning doesn't have that retired as the top number 1 guy, or really wasn't seen as a tier 1 quarterback even most of his career. But his Super Bowl MVPs, I mean, hello, right? We got to factor that in. And so that's different for him, just like Russell Wilson has his own little narrative as a dual threat guy who did become tier 1, but needed a lot of defense to win earlier in his career, didn't have a lot of playoff success late. I think that's what makes these debates interesting when you're talking about, it extends to these coaches too. Tom Coughlin, look at how many winning seasons are non-winning seasons. It's not like he was lighting it up every year, but he took 2 franchises, right? And one of them the Super Bowl, won twice, the other one Jaguars for the doorstep. It's not as simple as, it's fun to do the what if this or that, but these are all not slam dunk cases. That's why we have to talk.
Here's a what if that doesn't matter. This doesn't mean anything, just to say it. The Jaguars went 14-2 in 1999, lost 3 games. All of them were to the Tennessee Titans, who lost the Super Bowl to the Rams. If that had been Jaguars-Rams in that Super Bowl, would have been very interesting. My last question, and far be it from me, Mike, to suggest a content idea to you who's so good at it, but you were kind enough, because you came in a couple minutes before we came on the air, and you dropped in our show chat the GOAT Index, which I am going to read during the next break, which is the NFL coaches and executives ranking the best quarterbacks since 1978 when the passing rules were changed in the NFL. You published this for then ESPN, July 19th, 2017. Far be it from me to suggest this. I think we need an updated version of this from the great Mike Sando.
Well,
so
Mahomes has happened since then, right?
Yep.
Rodgers has won 2 more MVPs, I believe, since then.
And Brady's only strengthened his case. I guess he was number 1 already, but he's only strengthened his case with what he was able to accomplish.
Strengthened his case. So yeah, it was a really fun thing to do. I love doing that type of stuff. What stood out to me, and is a debate for another day probably, is just the feelings on Elway. I think are so fun because I think if you weren't around then and you just analyze and look at the numbers, you're like, what are we talking about? This guy wasn't that great. And when you ask the guys that were playing against him and coaching against him, different era when Dan Reeves was not rolling out. He was the coach of the Broncos for the first 10 or 12 years of Elway's career, and they went to multiple Super Bowls. But the offense was not dynamic in the passing game, and Elway was miserable. Behind the scenes, a lot of that was known. And then he gets with. It wasn't just Mike Shanahan. It was before that with was it Fossil?
Wade Phillips
maybe?
was the coach. Yeah, Wade Phillips.
Yeah, but it might have had Jim Fossil as his coordinator, and he just took off and suddenly was in the MVP conversation multiple times. So I thought was most interesting though is Howard Mudd, who was an All-Pro, Pro Bowl guard in the '60s and became known as probably the greatest offensive line coach, or one of them, top 3, 4, 5, over a 35 to 40 year period, was Peyton Manning's. He's on Peyton Manning's Colts for 10 years, roughly, okay? And when I asked him, and he has passed away since then, but when I asked him for who would he take 78 to present, he didn't hesitate at all. He said he would take Elway. He was with Peyton Manning. He would take Elway. Isn't that amazing? When you look at all of these other quarterbacks who have better numbers than Elway, I think that's more than mystique. That's guys who were on the field against him. And Tony Dungy said much the same thing. He favored, I think, Steve Young, Elway, the guys who could run a little bit too, So interesting perspectives.
And Elway ran into the 86 Giants. That then Redskins team would drop 35 in the second quarter. And then, in my estimation, Mike, the greatest single-season NFL team ever, which is the 1989 Niners, before they ended up winning a couple in 97 and 98 with Mike Shanahan as the coach. But just because we're running short on time, my final question. What kind of precipitated all of this, like me asking you about some of the quarterbacks? It's going to be Aaron Rodgers' final season. And, I think about, look, you know more about this stuff than me, but I feel like I know more than 99% of people, and then you know more than 99.9% of people, right? For me, I think he's the 7th best quarterback of the Super Bowl era. And that sounds kind of like it's an insult. It's a tremendous compliment. So I'm sure you may want to maybe you've done research on this. If you're not comfortable giving a strong answer, that's fine. But just offhand, where does he rank for you? And you could even say 78 to now for Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah. I would probably put him around 5-ish. I think he's around there. I mean, I'm going to put, I think Brady's going to be ahead of him.
Peyton?
I think Peyton Manning is probably ahead of him, but I could go either
Mahomes?
way. I mean, I think he's going to be ahead of him. That's close, but I think Rodgers has a little bit longer body of work. But I think Mahomes will get there. Probably. Yeah.
Elway?
I put Montana right there with him. And then, I think Elway's in there. I could do Rodgers kind of in the Marino area,
Love it. Need to win.
It's a fun thing to do.
Yeah, just for bleeps and giggles. You need to win one game. Rodgers or Marino?
Such a tough one.
That's why I chose it.
I might go. I might go with Rodgers. I mean, he also had the dual threat ability and could still make all of those throws and was, a master in 2 minutes. I do. The thing that holds me back a little bit on Rodgers is I do think he was so finicky with what was around him that I think he's harder to just drop in somewhere. He's stubborn that way.
And also, he's an all-time great. Should absolutely, and did not play well in some of these losses that they had in games that they absolutely should have won. I think that's fair to say.
Yes, I would say, though, he's been an organization that has been so focused around draft and develop and being super young teams all the time and never caring about special teams and all these things that create margins in playoff games. I think there's been a lot of games, probably more for him than most, where he had done his part and he was on the sideline as it unraveled. And it shouldn't have unraveled.
The game against the Seahawks, the 2014 title game, is first on that list.
I mean, that one. How about the blocked punt against the 49ers with another good Packer team?
In the snow on a Saturday night a couple years ago.
Yeah, he didn't play great necessarily in that game, but it was frigid and it was one of those games you're going to win on defense, but they lost on special teams. I think he's had more of those than most, to where his legacy with him doing nothing differently could be totally different and probably should be. There probably should be, another Super Bowl win or appearance for him in there.
And about the end of the first. To be fair to him, he's not playing corner or calling the defense at the end of the first half in the title game against the Bucs when Brady hit Scotty Miller for a touchdown. That didn't put the game away. It was close at the end, but I mean, kind of what are you doing here, guys? Come on.
Yeah, and when you look at, this is another study I've done that I think is just interesting, is, there's such an offensive head coach, quarterback-driven organization that I think some of those other areas slip. And when you look at the teams that have the coaches that have been able to have these expensive quarterbacks, whether they were as great as Rodgers or not, and be complete in the other areas, that it has been more of the teams like the Patriots with Belichick, or, Pete Carroll for a while there in Seattle, or I guess Andy Reid is an offensive guy who had it with Jim Johnson in Philly, or, Tomlin for the bulk of his tenure. Those sorts of guys are a lot of coaches who don't call the plays, who are sort of culture guys. Maybe they had a history in special teams. They get those complete teams. And so when you have the great quarterback, then you don't orient everything around smashing the records offensively, because you're in it to win the game as a team. Does that make sense?
It does.
And I think that's hurt to some extent, the Saints with Breeze, although they got gutted over the Bounty Gate thing. That was a big part of their defense falling off. But that organizational orientation can influence the championship outcomes for great quarterbacks.
Also, the 2009 Vikings were the best team and Adrian Peterson fumbled a million times and Favre threw a bad interception. That's a story for another time. Mike, you've been exceptionally generous with your time. I mean this. I think you know this. I could ask you a million questions. We could talk about this all day. But you've been 27 minutes with us, and I really appreciate it. Mike Sando from The Athletic, at Sando NFL. Check out his column on Russell Wilson. That's up now. Quarterback Tiers coming out later this summer. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Loved Mike Sando's thoughts on Russell Wilson. Love the back and forth on Rodgers and some of the best quarterbacks of all time. We'll take a break. Coming up next, why this Stanley Cup Final has been legendary through the first 3 games, and if time allows, the 5 teams that can win the World Cup right after this.
Tried to walk out in front. That got stopped by Slavin. Theodore drive off the back wall, knocked in. Vegas wins in double overtime.
Now, back to You Better You Bet with Nick Kostos on Westwood One Sports.
Sean McDonough with the call the other night on ESPN and ABC. Game 4 of the Stanley Cup Final tomorrow, with Game 3 of the NBA Finals tonight at Madison Square Garden. So the Vegas Golden Knights lead the Carolina Hurricanes 2-1. And I will loop the NBA in for a moment here. There is a strong case to be made that this has been, through 5 games, 3 NHL, 2 NBA. Is this the best opening 5 games ever combined for a Stanley Cup Final and an NBA Final? Both NBA Finals games coming down to it. Tuesday night, an epic ending with Wemby missing the final shot and the Knicks winning. And all 3 games of the Stanley Cup Final have been tremendous. So I'm thinking about it last night in preparation for the show today, after the way Game 2 ended, right? With Vegas up 2-0 and Carolina coming back to take a 3-2 lead in the final couple minutes. Then Vegas ties it with like a minute 20 to go. And then Carolina wins in overtime. We're tied at 1. And it felt like to me at that moment. So Carolina wins Game 2 in the fashion it did. And I'm thinking, man, my Vegas bets are in trouble. Carolina took a huge punch in Game 1. Down in the final minutes of Game 2 by 2. Come back to win the game. Pretty incredible. And then Game 3 happens. And Vegas is destroying Carolina. And in doing so, taking a 4-0 lead, Mitch Marner, who's going to win Conn Smythe if Vegas wins the Stanley Cup, Mitch Marner has the fastest hat trick in the history of the Stanley Cup Final, scoring 3 goals in a time span of 6 minutes and 10 seconds, besting that of Maurice Rocket Richard back in 1957, the Montreal Canadiens great, of 6 minutes and 21 seconds. Vegas is up 4-0, and it looks like Carolina's cooked, at least as far as the game goes. But then, Carolina sets a Stanley Cup Finals record by scoring 3 goals in 39 seconds to pull within 1, eventually ties the game to send it to overtime, and lose on and Kenny played the highlight coming back from break, a ridiculous play where Theodore shoots the puck, misses the net, it bounces off the boards, off of the skate of the Hurricane goalie into the net. Game over. Vegas wins 5-4. Pretty amazing stuff. This series marks the 10th time in Stanley Cup Final history that the first 3 games have all been decided by 1 goal. It's been awesome, right? Think about Game 1. With Carolina letting Vegas off the hook and Tomas Hertl scores to put them up 5-4 in the waning moments. Now, the difference between this series with Vegas and Carolina and the 1-goal margin of victories and every other instance ever in the Stanley Cup Final is the amount of goals scored. 25 goals have been scored combined in the first 3 games of this series. 25. Trust me, I know. I had Vegas in the under in Game 2. That looked great when it was 2-0 with a couple minutes to play. 2-0 Vegas. Final score 4-3 Carolina. Not great. 25 goals combined. The other instances, 1-goal games, first 3 games of a Stanley Cup Final. 13 goals, 15, 10, 13, 17, 13, 13, 4, and 13. For those curious, the 4 came in the 1945 Stanley Cup Final between the Toronto Maple Leafs and the Detroit Red Wings. This is historic stuff. These games have been electric. And not only have they all been close, not only have they all come down to the very end, but it's ridiculously high scoring. And look, maybe you're the type of hockey fan, and I don't mean this as a criticism. You can like whatever you like. Maybe you prefer 2-1 to 5-4. 1-0 to 4-3. Perfectly reasonable opinion. If defensive hockey and great goaltending is your bag, I totally understand that. I get it. But you have to acknowledge the fireworks here have made for tremendous entertainment. Especially if you're, type of hockey fan, and I think that most sports fans are like this. Hockey fans get really butthurt when you put it like this, but it's the truth. Most sports fans are casual regular season hockey fans that become huge fans during the Stanley Cup playoffs. You can like or dislike that in the same way you like or dislike that the sky is blue. It is. It is what it is. This has been a thrill ride. I love the comic strip Calvin and Hobbes. People have ever read it by the great Bill Watterson. And there's a famous Sunday strip. And this, for people that don't know, in the newspapers, the Sunday was in color and it was always longer than the weekday. Where Calvin, who's got the kid with a wild imagination, concocts this scenario in his head where there is going to be like a huge gas explosion with a plane crash and a train careening off the tracks, all converging into one gigantic explosion. And that's what the Stanley Cup Finals feels like to me from an excitement level. Boom, boom, boom. And you're also like on drugs watching it. 10 out of 10 entertainment value, absolutely through the roof. And you can make the argument that is the best opening 3 games to a Stanley Cup Final ever. Tomorrow night, we'll do more on it tomorrow on the show on the game. Tomorrow night, Game 4. Carolina's a small road favorite. I'm going to bet Vegas because I've been betting them every game in the series. I think Vegas is going to win the Cup. It should surprise no one, though, if the Canes win tomorrow. What a series. It's been awesome. We'll bring Bill Zimmerman on in a moment to ask the trivia question of the day today. We'll save the World Cup stuff for tomorrow. The 5 countries that I think can win. Just to tie something back to the Dan Quinn interview we did earlier in the show. So the head coach of the Washington Commanders joined us. He was awesome. I asked him about Brandon Ayuk, knowing he wouldn't answer the question. He didn't answer the question, but gave me credit for competing, which I took as a massive compliment. For those of you that missed it, Brandon Ayuk, is it fair to say he crashed out? Kind of, right? Posted a series of Instagram videos and posts this weekend where he's, shirtless wearing a Commanders hat. He's made no secret of the fact he wants to go play with Jaden Daniels for the Commanders, who could obviously use a receiver. But several videos calling the 49ers front office little ass boys for not releasing him. And saying that they are, quote, scared of the belt. Okay. And that people can question, they want to say about BA this and BA that. He speaks in the third person. Seems like a well-adjusted individual. But they can't question if BA is good on the football field. No one questions if Brandon Ayuk's good on the football field. He's excellent on the football field. But I keep saying it. He's nuts. And not nuts in the way you meet someone and you think, oh, well, that person's crazy. No. Like when you actually come across a crazy person and you realize all those people I thought are crazy, this person's crazy. He's nuts. If you're the Commanders, you probably have to roll the dice and sign him. Like Dan Quinn can say what he wants. You can't go into the season with Treylon Burks and Antonio Williams and Jalen Lane and Luke McCaffrey as your receivers behind Terry McLaurin. So, should they roll the dice? Probably. I'll just go on record. I don't think it's going to go well. I don't think it's going to go well for Brandon Ayuk, no matter where he ends up this NFL season. Bill Zimmerman is our executive producer. He has the trivia question of the day. Bill, what's going on? How are you?
I'm good, Nick. Here we go. We're doing NBA Finals trivia here because your Knicks are up 2-0, which means the Spurs are down 0-2, and only 5 teams have come back from 2-0 deficits to win the NBA Finals, but none of them lost the first 2 games at home. All of them lost the first 2 games on the road. No team has ever blown it after winning the first 2 games on the road. In fact, Nick, only one team has even won a game after losing the first 2 games at home. What team is it?
It's the Suns, right?
It is the Phoenix Suns, 1993.
93 against the Bulls.
Correct. They lost in 6.
Yeah, all right. So that was a good one. All right, so while we have you here, Bill, promote your podcast for a second here, just because we have to take a break, but promote the podcast.
All right, it's the Bears Banter Podcast, wherever you get your podcast under the Second City Gridiron podcast feed, obviously talking Chicago Bears.
And don't ask Bill what's more important to him, this show or that one, because I don't think I would like the answer. Are the Chicago Bears actually going to build a stadium? Because my thought on this has been they're going to be in Chicago until I actually see that they're not going to be in Chicago. What is the % chance that the Bears will play in Hammond, Indiana?
I mean, it's higher now than it was a couple weeks ago, but I still think it's below 50%. This whole thing is a mess, from the Chicago mayor, the Illinois politicians, the Bears. I think everybody has managed to screw this up. It's actually quite impressive. But here's the thing. This Indiana deal has been on the table since January. If the Bears wanted to be in Indiana, they already would be in Indiana. They are desperately trying to figure out a way to stay in Illinois. But the Indiana offer, whatever you want to call it, is a lot better. The deal is a lot better than anything Illinois is going to give them, just based on, honestly, Democrat versus Republican governments. That's really what it comes down to. So we'll see what happens here in the next few weeks. If they're gonna stay in Illinois, the Illinois government is going to have to do a special Senate meeting. There's a whole lot of things that are going on, but this is definitely still a leverage play from the Bears to try and stay in Illinois.
Would it embarrass you as a lifelong diehard Bears fan if they played in Indiana? 5 seconds.
It actually would for me. I think a lot of Bears fans at this point don't care, but playing in Northwest Indiana, and people are like, oh, well, the Giants and Jets play in New Jersey and stuff. To me, it feels a little different. I don't know. It doesn't sit right with me. So I think you could say it would probably be a little embarrassing. And as a season ticket holder, I would hate it.
I got to go to Hammond, Indiana. What?
Could you imagine
Take a break
Roger Goodell putting a Super Bowl in Hammond, Indiana? I can't.
No. Bets for tonight close the show right after this.
Now, back to You Better You Bet with Nick Kostos on Westwood One Sports.
Today, BetMGM players will receive an NBA Finals odds boost token. To use the token, add a wager made up of NBA playoff bets to your bet slip and activate the token. If you win your wager, you'll receive extra winnings and unrestricted bonus dollars. Download the BetMGM app today, and please gamble responsibly. Thanks to our guest on today's show, the head coach of the Washington Commanders. How about us? Multiple head coaches, general managers, just the beginning of what we will do with guests in the NFL and moving forward in other sports here on You Better You Bet. The head coach of the Washington Commanders, Dan Quinn, Zach Harper from The Athletic, and Mike Sando from The Athletic as well. Thanks to our guests, Bill Zimmerman, our executive producer, Tyler Morales, Kenny Henderson, Mike Brown, and Dan Turner, our crew. All right, bets for tonight. Kenny, please drop the dope-ass beat. This bet segment is going to get beefed up in a big way later this week when the World Cup returns. Can't wait to bet the World Cup, even if I acknowledge maybe throwing money away. I'm going to bet on a little soccer, and I look forward to it. More World Cup. Well, I guess we did none of it today. World Cup coming up on the show tomorrow. Bets for tonight. If you think I'm betting anything other than Knicks Spurs, you're crazy. As far as I'm concerned, it's the only thing that exists tonight in the world of sports or in life, period. Ooh, and the Spurs have been getting bet as predicted. The Knicks are now a 1.5-point favorite at BetMGM. I said earlier in the show on my Odyssey Sports Minutes on Beat the Books, which runs on stations nationwide, I thought the Spurs would close a shorter price than they were. It looks like that's going to happen. Great. Let's bet the Knicks at a shorter money line price. Knicks minus 125 on the money line. 113 straight games. I'm not trying to catch the falling knife here, and I'm also a Knicks fan. Take it for what it's worth. Give me the Knicks minus 125 money line to win tonight and move within a game of a sweep for an NBA championship. I'll be very upset tomorrow morning if they lose, which could definitely happen. Maybe some of you are rooting for that outcome. Until we meet again, you're listening to Your Viewer on a Tuesday. I'm Nick Kostos wishing you minimal sweats, winning bets, the absolute very best of luck. Black and Abdallah are coming up next. Go New York, go New York, go.